Hey everyone, today I am extreme bargain wine shopping. I'm at Trader Joe's in Walnut Creek, California. It's a place that I come to oftentimes to buy my food. I also buy a fair amount of wine here as well. I've had some really positive experiences. Some of them have been kind of so-so, but the objective here today is to find 3 bottles of wine that represent extreme value for under $20. And I'm talking California pricing. So if you're outside of California, your pricing may be a bit different, but it should be reasonably close. And I'm also trying to be planful in terms of how I look for these wines. I'm looking at the country of origin. There are certain countries that consistently produce very good value. Within some countries, there are regions that show good value. So I'm going to try to identify some of those. Other things that may come into consideration is the wine style, what it's made from, vintage. But ultimately, what I'm trying to identify are these wines that really do stand out in terms of being value in the most broad sense. The typical Trader Joe's will have about 500 wines. Included are some known branded wines, some exclusives, and plenty of private labels, with Charles Shaw being the best known. While there is plenty of mainstream wine, there's also a solid range from lesser known places. This is where I'm going to focus most of my time in looking for the best value. I've made my way back home with 3 bottles of wine from Trader Joe's. 1 white and 2 reds came in at $19.97, so just under that $20 mark. The wines are from 3 different countries. One is from South Africa, one Spain, one Portugal. These are 3 countries that have a fantastic record for very good value. Down below, I'll post all the details in the description about the specific wines. Wine number 1 is called Mbali. It's from the Western Cape in South Africa. South Africa has a winemaking history that goes back about 300 years. There are some markets in the world where South Africa is a major player. Places like Germany, Netherlands, Sweden, they import a lot of wine from South Africa. Here in the U.S., not so much. But this one it really caught my eye. It's made by a producer called Zedella. And Setubal is a company that's been around for about 20 years. And what they focus on are creating private labels for large retailers around the world. One of the things that they do extremely well is Chenin Blanc. And Chenin Blanc's are very much a maligned grape variety in the U.S., but it's a grape variety with ancient origins. It ties back to wines like Vouvray, Mont Louis, Viognier. So some really great wines are made with Chenin Blanc. This is also blended with a bit of Viognier. It's 79% Chenin Blanc, 21% Viognier. 2 grape varieties that are like polar opposites. Chenin Blanc tends to be bright, crisp, a lot of acidity. Viognier tends to be more of a broader, richer, weightier, lusher style wine. So I'm curious to see how these 2 come together. As for the packaging on this, they have really gone the route to minimize cost. It's a lightweight glass. They're using a screw cap closure. It's really simple packaging. And this is lightweight glass, which means it's going to be cheaper, easier to ship, which is certainly a strong consideration out in today's market. So let's give this one a try. As I mentioned, it has the screw cap. And Viognier and Chenin Blanc blended together is certainly not typical. One winery that's made a strong presence in it over the last several years has been Pine Ridge in California. So I'm curious to see if this is somehow similar to what that Pine Ridge version is. The aromatics are really bright. They're fresh, they're clean, they're vibrant. I should note this is a 2022 vintage. Now keep in mind, in the Southern Hemisphere, the harvest takes place in February, March. So this wine is extremely youthful. Yeah, there's a peach characteristic to it. The acidity is really brisk, very lively. It's not a very complex wine, but it's got a lot of purity of fruit. There's no oak to this, so what you're getting is all primary fruit. You know, it's a simple wine that is made extremely well. It's fermented dry, but it is very overt on the fruit character. if you're a fan of Pinot Grigio, a fan of Sauvignon Blanc, I think this is something that you would also like very, very much. I got to say, for the minimal cost, I'm actually really happy with this. I think the wine lives up to everything that would be expected from it, and it would be an absolute crowd pleaser. Now we're off to wine 2, and this one I'm really excited about. This is the wine from Spain. The name of the wine is Oxte, and it's kind of a cool label. I think the packaging on it is very good. It looks rather upscale, actually. I had no idea what the name meant, had to Google it, and apparently what it means is either get out, go away, or shoo. So kind of an interesting concept for a label. The region that the wine is from is Carinena, and it's an area in Spain that is really, it's one of the oldest designated growing areas in all of Europe. It goes back to the 1930s. It has a history of for growing Garnacha primarily. And one of the things that caught my eye on this was certainly, well, the region is one, but the other is, I know the import folks on this. It's a company called Oxte. I've known these people for a lot of years, and I've had very good experience with their wines. Didn't even realize they had sold wines to Trader Joe's. But when I came across this, I thought, yeah, this looks interesting and worthwhile. Now, it does say that it's a red blend, but there's no indication of what the blend is. So I'm curious to see if I can discern what this is. I'm sure it's probably, I know it's primarily Garnacha. Beyond that, it could be a lot of other things too. Let's see. Yeah, it has a lot of that Garnacha character, some bright fruit. It's pretty ripe, rich, full. Alcohol level is 14%. If there's any oak to this, it's minimal, but it's got a lot of character to it. It's quite robust. It's got good presence on the front palate, good presence on the mid, fairly lengthy finish. The tannins are soft. It's a 2021 vintage. This is a wine made for drinking now. And I think this is really rock solid. I mean, if I had this wine as a house pour somewhere, I'd be thrilled. And for a really inexpensive everyday red, it's really quite stunning. The wine on the back label, it says the wine is vegan friendly. It's odd to think that there are still wines out there that are not vegan friendly, but this has become much more of a focus point in recent years. Look, overall, I give big kudos to this wine. I would buy this again, and I would be really happy with it. And now it's time for the third and final wine. This is the one from Portugal. It's called Vinha de Fonte Reserva. It's a 2020. It's from a winery called Casa, Ermelinda. This is down in the southern part of Portugal. Recent years, there's been a huge amount of interest in Portuguese wine. It's something that you're finding is some of the top values, but it's also something interesting because they're using a lot of interesting indigenous grape varieties. This one's a little bit of a blend of both. You have 25% Cabernet Sauvignon, 25% Castelao, 20% Syrah, 20% Touriga Nacional, and 10% Alicante Bouschet. These are all grape varieties that bring a lot of color. They tend to be fairly small berries, thick skin. That means you've got a lot of skin to a lesser amount of juice. Generally, you're going to get wines with a lot of extract. So I'm expecting some big style red here. The wine does spend some time in oak. It has 12 months in both French and American oaks. I'm expecting some of that characteristic as well. The estate itself has been around for about 100 years, so there's some good track record there. Also, this is a wine that is not one of Trader Joe's private labels. It's really much more of an exclusive. This wine is sold in other markets around the world. The color is deep. It's not quite as deep as I would expect. I thought it might almost be opaque. It's not, but there's good extraction of color. It's a wine that's got some substance to it. It's definitely a bigger style red. It's full, it's ripe. It has a savory note to it. It reminds me a little bit of roasted coffee. The oak comes through. You get a little bit of that smoky charred wood character. Definitely full-bodied. The back label shows it's 14.5 alcohol. The structure of the wine can support it very well. Now this bottle's just been opened, and I think this is a wine that would benefit from being open for some time. A bit of air would help to bring out more of the aromatics. But it's really a solid wine. It's deep, it's robust, it's got some complexity and weight to it. The finish is fairly long. The tannin is quite evident. And if you had some sort of meat with a red meat dish, for instance, with some fat, the tannin is going to cut right through that. I think this wine is really rock solid. I'm quite impressed. So did I achieve what I set out to do? Did I find extreme value at Trader Joe's in wine? 3 bottles for under $20. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. Certainly there was not a bad bottle of wine in the group. The Mbali was solid, made in a very commercial style. Good bottle of wine. Oxte is an absolute standout. The wine has weight, richness, there's complexity. It just sings Spain in every possible way. If you can find it at your TJ's, pick it up. I think you're going to love it. The Vinha de Fonte, this one is really a matter of style. And if you like the style that's more restrained, something that has a bit more oak to it, this is going to be your speed. Another really good effort. I appreciate you staying to the end of the video. Please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Also hit the like. These things really do help as I'm trying to get this channel up and running. Also, if you have any great buys from Trader Joe's you'd like to share, please post it down in the comments. I'll read everything that's posted there. And until next time, I'll be somewhere out in the wine world. Cheers.